Welcome back to The Grind. In this video, we are going to be talking about the trading post, which has come with this breeding event. Now, there are some recent changes and some upcoming videos to look out for with the Sepula buff. The details have been provided already, so check my channel for a video and review, but gameplay will be coming hopefully soon. Now, there will also be a video on Morta. A little bit of a spoiler, I'm not super impressed with Morta, but I will be making a video on that. I'm just working on editing it. But for now, let's get into the trading post. So the trading post is basically like one of those like mystery branches. Basically, they put out every day something a little bit different, and this is the daily trading post of this event. So the first day will expire after another 21.5 hours, and each day will have a different selection of prizes. So what I'm most excited about seeing right now is this first one here. So you can give away 125 black pearls in exchange for 100 elemental embers. Now, this is interesting. It's a very small quantity, so and there's a limit, I think, of 10. So in total, you can give away 12,500 pearls and get back, what is that? 10,000 elemental embers. So overall, it's not a huge amount. Now, I don't really need either of these resources. Oh my goodness, I've never checked my black pearls, but looks like I have 280,000 black pearls, and I do have an abundance of embers, but the amount of total game embers that are needed are a lot higher than the total game black pearls. So I have more than enough black pearls right now, and I don't think I'll ever need that many, and I will continue to get more throughout the game, but I will always need more elemental embers. Once you get to higher levels and you start building even more of them at max tier, they get really expensive, and so having a stockpile is never too soon to start. And so that is one that is very valuable. I think a lot of players would benefit from that, particularly lower level players who don't feel like they need to level their perch, or they've only got one perch to level 30 and that's all they want for now. I have 2 perches to level 30 and I don't feel a need to do much more than that at this point. So if you're in the same boat, you've got some saved up pearls, but you don't need to spend them in the near future and you're hurting for a little extra embers, this is a reasonable option. Now, the next one is these defense gunpowder. I don't think this is a good deal. That is a lot of sigils to spend, and I personally do not think it's worth spending your sigils on these defensive items, because you can get a lot better things out of the seasonal branches with your sigils, and so definitely not worth it in my opinion. Then these mystic fragments, they are valuable, and the cost of them isn't crazy high. However, the best value comes from those at max tier. So if you're at max tier and you want the mythic fragments and you don't need the sigils for anything else, it is reasonable to help you get the dragons that you want a little bit quicker. But for anyone below max tier, the mythic fragments are much less valuable, because the discounting of the breeding tokens makes it a little bit cheaper to go with the breeding tokens. Whereas if you're paying full price for max tier dragons with breeding tokens, then using the mythic fragments instead gives you a lot more value. So I would really only recommend this for those at max tier, or those who are planning to save all of them until max tier and do not need the sigils this season. But for the vast majority of players, I would avoid that one. And then we come over to these food packs. Now, this is a bit of an interesting one, because usually they don't give away these prizes at such a low sigil cost. Now, most players don't like food packs because you can just grind it out, and a lot of players don't find that they often need it. Now, for me, I have gotten a little bit more lazy, and I tend to always be short on food, especially when I have a new divine dragon or lineage dragon that I want to level up fast. You get to a point where each level costs over 1 million food, and you have to do tons and tons of base runs to get the food to add another 5 to 10 levels onto the dragon. So I don't know how many of these I'm going to get, but I am going to get a little bit of these for, quality of life. Let's see, what can I part with? Maybe 500 sigils gets me 10 of them, which gets me 100 of those food packs. That's quite a bit of food. You know, that's really cheap in my opinion. I know this is silly. I'm going to end up on this season having more sigils than I need. I already have calculated it out. So I'm going to go ahead and take this quality of life feature. I don't recommend this for most players, especially free-to-play players or lower level players who are, you know, pushing for as much out of those season lines as possible. If you know you're finished a line and you're not going to be getting another complete line, or you're just going to get a few more prizes here and there, this isn't a terrible choice. But again, most players aren't going to want this, or most players would benefit more from spending those sigils on another line, potentially another of the trading post options for the next couple days. So really, it's probably better to save your sigils for an option tomorrow or the next day with the trading post rather than spending it on the food. So don't follow my lead on that one, but that's just a little something that I had to do for myself for a little quality of life. Now, this one is another good deal, and that's because if you spend the rubies that you get from spending these sigils on super sigil chests at the end of the season, you will end up with more sigils than you spent in the first place. It is not a huge conversion, but it is a benefit. It does get you slightly more sigils. So if you don't need your sigils now, you can invest in these rubies in order to spend the rubies on super sigil chests at the end of the season, which will get you more sigils in return. Or you can save them for the rubies. You can save the rubies for the next season after if you don't need anything this season. So basically, you're using sigils to invest into rubies, which you can then cash out back into additional sigils at a later time if you use those rubies on super sigil chests, which are only available in the last 2 weeks of each season. So I'm going to go ahead and do this because, I don't know, typically I end up working on, I'm only going to do a few of them though. I typically end up, you know, spending rubies on super sigil chests to make a little extra push when needed. If I'm going for, you know, maybe a second mythic again, I'm at that point now where I get a mythic pretty easily. And if I want to get a second mythic, I have to have that extra push from the super sigil chests. So for most players, this isn't really the best investment, but in fact, well, I'll just go ahead and cap it out at 10. And that way at the end of the season, I have those extra rubies that I can cash into these super sigil chests in order to complete whatever little prizes or line that I might be hoping to complete. So that's really it for today's trading post. I will do my best to make a daily trading post, hopefully early on in the day so that you have time to watch it and make your decisions. But so far this day, I found to be pretty nice. Mostly I'm excited again about that featured item that converts one resource into another resource that is not sigils, because that allows players who are scraping for sigils to still at least utilize the trading post for a resource that they might need in exchange for a resource that they don't necessarily need as much of. So let me know what you think in the comments below about all these deals and that featured deal, and what you yourself have claimed, and how much you disagree with my choice to get the food or rubies, or maybe even the elemental embers, but probably most people will disagree with the food option. So I hope this was helpful, and I will see you in the next video.